John Bones Jones is widely considered the greatest fighter to ever set foot in the octagon, a once-in-a-generation talent, a man who beat legends before he was old enough to rent a car, but under the highlight reels and gold belts lies a trail of contradictions, suspensions, excuses, and outright lies. This isn't a hit piece. This is the reality behind the polished image of Jon Jones, the UFC's golden child, and its biggest liar. Let's start with the fake humility. Early in his career, Jon Jones branded himself as a humble Christian athlete. He would thank God in every post-fight interview, quote scripture, act soft-spoken, but behind closed doors, he was partying, getting DUIs, doing drugs, and hiding failed tests. It was a character he wore like a costume. And eventually, that mask slipped. The nice guy image was destroyed the day he crashed his car into a pregnant woman and fled the scene. He didn't check if she was okay. He ran, came back for his cash, then ran again. What kind of role model does that? And yet, time and time again, Jon would go on camera afterward saying things like, "I've learned from my mistakes. I'm growing. I've found God again." He said this after every scandal. And then he'd go out and do it again. That's not redemption, that's manipulation. And let's talk about steroids, the elephant in the room. Jon Jones popped for banned substances multiple times. The UFC and USADA bent over backward to explain it away. It was a picogram. It was pulsing. It's not performance enhancing. But come on, this is the same Jon Jones who failed a drug test before UFC 200, causing the main event to be cancelled. Then again, before UFC 214. Let's be real, if this were any other fighter, they'd be banned for life. But because it's Jon, the UFC created special exceptions. He got to fight in California when Nevada wouldn't clear him. They even moved an entire fight card for him. And through it all, Jones denied everything, claimed it was tainted supplements, said he was innocent, told the media he doesn't cheat. But the facts don't lie. If your system is pulsing steroids years later, that means they were in your system, period. Jon Jones has never taken full accountability for any failed test. He always deflects, always plays the victim. That's not the behavior of a clean athlete. That's the behavior of a manipulator who knows he's protected. Jon Jones claims to be the GOAT, and talent-wise, he probably is. But greatness isn't just what you do in the cage, it's how you carry yourself outside it. Let's compare him to someone like Georges St-Pierre or Demetrius Johnson. These are guys who walked away clean. No PED scandals, no DUIs, no felony arrests. Jon Jones has the resume of a god and the rap sheet of a criminal. And yet every time he gets in trouble, he somehow spins the story to come out looking like a victim, a misunderstood genius, a man targeted by the media. But he contradicts himself constantly. One month he says he's retiring, the next he's tweeting call-outs. He says he's moving to heavyweight to challenge himself, then takes 3 years to actually do it, and picks the weakest champ available. He talks about testing himself, but refused to rematch Reyes, who arguably beat him. He talks about legacy, but handpicked Stipe, a 41-year-old coming off a KO after ducking contenders like Aspinall and Pavlovich. That's not greatness, that's theater. Dominic Reyes exposed Jon Jones, not just as a fighter, but as a man. Jones went into that fight as the undefeated king. Everyone expected domination. Instead, he arguably lost. Most media outlets gave Reyes the first 3 rounds, but the UFC, surprise surprise, gave Jon the win. Dana White even hinted afterward that Reyes won, but officially, Jones kept the belt. Did Jon admit the fight was close? He acted like he dominated, brushed it off, said Reyes didn't push him. Then what did he do? He vanished. Instead of running it back, like any real champ would, Jon vacated the belt and disappeared for 3 years. Jon Jones said for years that he was bulking up to fight at heavyweight, but let's be honest, he was hiding. During those 3 years, Francis Ngannou became the champ, the scariest heavyweight alive, knockout artist, huge power, a real threat. Jon kept teasing the fight, saying he wanted Deontay Wilder money, saying he needed time to prepare, and just when it looked like the fight might happen, Francis left the UFC. And suddenly, Jones is ready. He fights Cyril Gane, a striker with no wrestling, and finishes him in 2 minutes. Now all of a sudden, he's the baddest man on the planet. The man spent a decade saying he's here to fight the best, and now he's cherry-picking. That's not a champion, that's a businessman in denial. Let's not forget Jon's special treatment from USADA. Remember when Jeff Nowitzki, the golden snitch, went on podcasts defending Jones? Remember the infamous picogram pulsing excuse? USADA bent over backward to protect Jon. They invented science no one had heard of to explain away failed tests, and fans bought it because they wanted to believe their hero was clean. But the truth? The UFC and USADA protected their golden goose. There's a reason fighters like Yoel Romero got suspended for tainted supplements, but Jones didn't. There's a reason they moved an entire UFC event from Vegas to California just so John could fight. That's corruption, plain and simple, and John lied through all of it. John Jones had every gift a fighter could ask for: talent, length, IQ. But he poisoned it with lies, ego, and manipulation. And the UFC let him. They marketed him as the GOAT while ignoring the DUIS, the hit and runs, the PEDS, the ducking, because John Jones made them money. And in the end, that's what the UFC really cares about. John Jones is not just a controversial figure. He's a case study in how power corrupts, how talent excuses everything, and how fans, media, and corporations will bend the truth to protect a brand. He could have been the cleanest, most dominant, most respected fighter in MMA history. Instead, he's the UFC's biggest liar. And one day when the dust settles and we look back at his career, we won't just remember the wins, we'll remember the contradictions, the cover-ups, the deception. Because greatness without integrity is just a lie told often enough that people start to believe it. This was never about hate, it's about truth. And in a sport built on honor, truth still matters. Like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, is John Jones still the GOAT or the greatest fraud MMA has ever seen?